Chapter 8, The Guitar in America, Part 5, from The Art and Times of the Guitar by Frederick v. Grunsfeld. The artist is like a millionaire, John Cocteau once said. He travels ahead in a private car. The public follows behind in a bus. On the American guitar scene, it is the jazz virtuoso who travels ahead with his personalized guitar, special tunings, gadgets, strings, individually cut-away designs, etc., and the great mass of grassroots guitarists who follow behind with truckloads of production line models suitable for hillbilly, rock and roll, rockabilly, western swing, bluegrass, rhythm and blues, authentic folk, commercial folk, plain commercial, and plain folk. Trying to define all the current categories would be like determining how many angels can dance on the head of a guitar. Obviously, this is a genuinely popular phenomenon, charged not only with musical, but also with psychological, libidinous overtones. The titles of some of the LP albums of the 1960s reveal quite unconsciously the extent to which this universal twang reflects the inner concerns of the American psyche. Guitars on the go, frantic guitars, guitar freakout, tough guitar, Twangsville, funky 12-string guitar, 50 guitars in love, gin mill guitar, guitars anyone? Solid gold guitar, the guitar that changed the world. But the guitar in America plays only a supporting role in most cases. For folk singers and the country and western people, for example, the instrument is as much a badge of office as anything else. And the ability to strum a few modest chords is usually regarded as quite sufficient. Anything more guitaristic than that would smack of commercialism and the despised artifices of the professional arranger. As the North Carolina folk singer Frank Prophet once said about the virtuosity of Earl Scruggs, the world's greatest bluegrass banjo picker, "I'd like to be able to do it and then not do it." For folk singers like Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, Odetta, Simon and Garfunkel, Burl Ives, and Richard Dyer Bennett, it isn't so much what they play that counts as the fact that they play it themselves. I can testify under oath, of course, that the guitar never betrays a singer who knows his guitar. Carl Sandburg once wrote in the Guitar Review, drawing on his own experience as an uncertain but unabashed Sunday guitarist, "When you have practiced your song to where you have some degree of loving understanding of your song, and when you have practiced your guitar chords, adding any little interspersals you choose to design as decor, till you feel they are a genuine help rather than a hindrance to your singing, the result, when presented to a crowded house, may fail to bring tumults of applause, but it will not bring you into contumely, contempt, or bad repute." The genuine Arkansas traveler and folk balladeer, moreover, is quite satisfied to be an underachiever of the guitar. That is why folk music often brings out the best in people, but the worst in guitars. I learned that I could plunk along on Birmingham Jail in the key of, say, G, and get by plumb and dandy with only one chord change, and the whole song up to D and back to greasy G, said Woody Guthrie. "I've pounded out Ida Red, Old Judge Parker, Take Your Shackles Off of Me, for as high as 30 or 40 minutes with no more than two chords, D to A, and D to A. 10 blue jillion times through a square dance. Lots of the old full-blooded fiddlers will toss you off from his platform if you go to getting too fancy with your chording. At that rather humble level of proficiency, the guitar has served innumerable causes in American politics. It has been a factor to be reckoned with in Southern elections ever since the days when Kissin' Jim Folsom won the governorship of Alabama by demonstrating to the voters' satisfaction his ability to head up a vocal and guitar trio. In the early years of the century, it played a significant role in the wobbly labor movement when the folk singer Joe Hill hit on the idea of teaching oral history to members of the IWW. Some time ago, when Uncle Sam he had a war with Spain, and many of the boys in blue were in the battle slain. Not all were killed by bullets, though. No, not by any means. The biggest part that died were killed by armors, pork, and beans. Although Hill was put out of action when he was executed on trumped-up charges by the state of Utah in 1915, the protest song has remained very much a part of liberal and radical movements in the United States ever since, from "I Don't Want Your Millions, Mister," to "We Shall Overcome." Curiously enough, it is the urban rather than the rural areas that are most susceptible to musical appeals. In Greenwich Village, it is not unusual to see political meetings where not only are guitars present on the platform, but half the audience expresses its solidarity by bringing along guitars of its own. Even the hippies, normally so reluctant to appear engaged in anything, have taken over this part of American political tradition. Last week, the hippies were in full flower, reported Time magazine on July 7, 1967. In New York City, they brought their tambourines and guitars to the aid of dog owners protesting the leash laws in Greenwich Village's Washington Square Park, chanting, "What is a dog?" spelled backward. What is dog spelled backward? On the other hand, several tidy capitalist fortunes have been made the same way, and Joan Baez is probably mistaken when she insists there's never been a good Republican singer. The guitar has given many young men destined to be millionaires their first boost onto the economic escalator of limitless upward mobility. According to the Reader's Digest, a hod carrier named Don Wilson and his building foreman, Bob Bogle, parlayed a guitar quartet called The Ventures into a $25 million enterprise that produces guitars, teaching methods, and record albums. One of the first to discover this precipitous path to success was the cowboy star Roy Rogers, whose life story, as told in a studio biography headlined "From Guitar to Silver Screen," had the makings of a new Horatio Alger legend. As a small boy, Roy bought his first guitar at a Cincinnati hawk shop for $3. As he grew, he mastered a flock of cowboy songs, and on Saturday nights doubled as square dance caller and master of ceremonies. Roy went to Hollywood and began appearing in bit parts in small radio shows, always featuring his guitar. On a tip he heard in a hat store that Republic Studio was testing for a new cowboy star. Roy rushed to the studio, but he failed to get an audition. However, he melted into a crowd of extras and poured through the gates with them. He found little trouble playing one of his favorite numbers, Tumblin' Tumbleweeds, for a group of executives. That did it. Music put him to the top in one little number. He was signed immediately, became a star in his first picture, and has now, 1948, starred in some 75 other Western pictures. Music makes our family rich and our life happy, said the Rogers all say.